Hi, my name is Sohail Dantis and I've been working with Reynolds for the past 10 years. I currently head the audio department and oversee systems for the company. What we have currently in our inventory are a bunch of Aries 8s, B18s, MTX 218s and CM15s. The reason we went with audio focus is because of its size to power ratio, as well as the fact that they are an actively powered system helps us deploy the system much easier, quicker in most venues around the country. So the reason we went in for the Aries 8 system and this little package is because it packs a lot of punch in a small package. The size to power ratio is brilliant and helps us to cover most venues with pretty much no effort at all. A big PA with a small delay stack in larger venues, whereas just the flown system, the LR in mid-size venues works absolutely perfect with the Aries 8. So here at Reynolds, we like to spend good time in pre-planning and prepping our systems for shows to come. With ease focus, that enables us to do that very easily with the Aries 8. We can pop in a system, pop in venue dimensions, get a prediction done so that we know exactly what we're going to hear once we're in the venue. It really helps speed up the process and ease focus all the way. The Audio Focus Aries 8 and B18, one of my most favorite combinations from the Audio Focus Aries line. I really love the way this system integrates with each other. It's very easy to either ground stack or fly the system. The way the hardware is integrated with the box is awesome. In a ground stack situation, the tops could sit and lock into the subwoofers just like it is here, or it could be flown with the subs on top and the tops hanging below it. It helps in low frequency coverage thrown to the back of many venues. This is really versatile, especially when we move into smaller venues. You do theater, corporate, small to mid-sized musical events in auditoriums. Takes up less of footprint than most systems out there and packs a punch. So it's pretty great, pretty versatile. So something that really got me with this little system are the single B18s, the single 18 subwoofers by Audio Focus. It's really great because with its integrated rigging, you could fly the subwoofers and then rig the PA right below it, get better sub coverage to the back of venues. It's very easy to deploy in cardioid configurations as well. Very versatile, can move into smaller venues, packs a punch, and hence a system like this is our go-to for most troublesome applications. The CM15 by design is a coaxial speaker, and by virtue of being that is a very good sounding speaker right out of the box. It's very versatile because it's got a freely rotatable horn that can do various angles, which helps us to tailor the wedges placed on stage for musicians. It depends whether we're using 2 wedges, single wedge, change the angle, and it's done. It's really quick, it's really easy, no nuts and bolts. You just pop the lid off, a couple of screws to swap the horn around, and we've got a speaker with a different coverage. So it's very versatile as a floor wedge, it's very versatile as a point source speaker on a stand. It can be deployed as a distributed system all over. It's got a very intuitive pole mounting option, which helps us to angle the speaker differently while mounted on a pole, which is also very useful. Definitely the presets save a lot of time and effort in EQing monitors when they use these wedges, or vice versa. Well, with respect to the audio focus network manager, I am actually itching to get my hands deeper into it because it is very viable with the new system, that is the Aries 8 HQ, and the newer models like the Venue and stuff. Very interested to know, considering that it lets you access all the DSP that's within the amplifier, hence making it even more flexible, easily tunable, and deployable all over the place.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Hi. Thanks for being there. Well before time, we have close to 36 participants. Lovely. Hi. My name is Rohit. Uh, I work as a senior product manager for Sun Infinite, based in Mumbai. For people who don't know us, we are the distributors for uh, audio focus speakers, Shure microphones, My Sound speakers, Allen and Heath mixers, and stuff pan India. We have got our service centers and offices in Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, and also we've got a service center in Kolkata. Uh, Along with me today, I have Jai Karan, who is also a product manager from Chennai. Uh, and today we get you audio focus, more about, last time we had an introduction, a product overview of the audio focus. So, we wanted to explain you or give you information much more deeper in terms of, the examples with the systems, what are the configurations, what is the best configuration for auditoriums, how do you, what are the features inside the DSP, what is the DSP made of, and stuff like that. So I think without wasting any time, I will hand it over to Thomas. Thomas is the technical specialist from Audio Focus, Belgium. Over to you, Thomas.
Hello, Rohit. Thank you for the introduction. So I'm Thomas. I'm working at Audio Focus, mainly R&D department. So I'm gonna introduce you to the technical part of the system. So we're gonna talk about the amplifier. We're gonna talk about the DSP. We're also gonna talk about the rigging, and also about all the software. So it's Focus and AF Manager to predict and do simulation, and AF Manager to control the speakers. So the first thing I want to define before going more in depth about how we build the speakers is what is a line source. So the line source is basically a line array in speakers like RS8 or RS12 are stacked together, and the goal is to form only one big speaker at the end. In this way, you can control the directivity of the sound, and instead of being a point source like one speaker alone, it becomes a line source. So the main aspect of this and the big advantage is that the dispersion becomes cylindrical instead of spherical. So when you double the distance, the volume of the sound explanation is 2 times less. So this means that we only lose 3 dB when doubling the distance instead of 6. It's the main advantage on line array, and this is how we control the sound in the front. So to be able to reach those goals, we have to fulfill some criteria. Because if we want, so let's say a line array will need to go for a 95 dB at 30 meters. A point source would be way more up in volume at 1 meter than a line array. So obviously all the audience area will be more homogeneous with a line array than with a point source. So to be able to do that, the line array must fulfill some criteria that have been developed by Christian Rell and Marc Urban in the 90s. So those criteria are that the sound source total must be planar, and in equal phase. The total surface of the speakers must be at least 80%, and the speakers must be really close to each other, because if the space is more than half the wavelength, they don't behave like one speaker only. So the goal is really to build up one speakers. Line array is considered like only one big speakers on each side of the stage. And we can say that RS12 and RS8 fulfill those criteria. So RS8 and RS12 are not only line array, but are also line source. So line source still have some limit. The limit of a line source has been observed and calculated from the optical aspect of physics. And those zones are called Fresnel and Fraunhofer limit. Still in the Fresnel zone, the line array behave like a line source. And after that, it starts to behave again like a point source. So it looks a bit like this. So this is the near field, and this is the far field. So it acts like a line source there, and start to act like a point source after the Fresnel-Fraunhofer limit. This means also, if we go back to previous, I can't. If we go back to previous, yeah, we can see that this is the formula that give you the abilities to calculate the limit of Fraunhofer zone. More easy, simplified formula is this one. So the distance is proportional to L, and L is the length of the line array, and inversely proportional to the wavelength of the line array. So this means that the bigger the wavelength, the lower the frequency. So in the low end, the line array has more difficulty to control the projection and the cylindrical dispersion than in the high end. And the length has to be the longer the better. I mean, the longer the line array, the more you will control the low end. So having a lot of cabinets on a line array is not about the SPL, it's about the control you can give to the low end. For example, 12 RS12 are able to project 2 kilohertz at 58 meters, and only 7 meters at 250 hertz. So this will result also in different things. So the more box you have, the more control you have about the wavelength. So the wavelengths really see the line array like a big object. So if you put more box together, you get build up low end with the number of speakers. And the other acoustic phenomena that happened is that the high end has some attenuation regards the distance. So the further away, the more high end you lose regards to the low end. So this could unbalance the sound of the line array. This is also some acoustic rules you can't go apart, and those are those we have to take care about. So for example, this is 1 RS12 alone measurement, and this is 8 RS12. So you can really see we are like plus 20 dB at 125 hertz. And if we keep the simulation going, you see the RS12 being flat at 16 meters and fall in the high end at 64 meters. So how AudioFocus manage this problem, acoustical rules in their speakers? So we got some preset, and preset are for a solution. So inside the preset of the RS8 and the RS12, there are two banks. So the first part of the name of the preset is the preset number, P16, for example. The second part of the name is the number of cabinets you use. So in this example, you use 12 RS12 per side, or at least in one array, and then the distance. So obviously, the top cabinets will act and shoot further away in the far field, while the bottom down cabinet will shoot in the near field. So the high-end reproduction of the bottom is not the same in the top as we've seen before because of the distance compensation. So if you load the right preset and deployed the system as it should be with the preset and the simulation, you obtained some really flat response everywhere in terms of SPL and in terms of frequency response. So for example, here you can see 24 RS12 deployed, and it's almost totally the same response, at least it is between 100 Hertz and 12 kilohertz, between 15 meters and 120 meters. So it's really a huge improvement based on preset, based on plug and play preset that you don't have to calculate with a smart or anything in the tuning on the field. So everything is done before the show, and you just plug and play the system once you're on the venue or on the gig, outside gig. So what is inside RS12 and RS8? So the RS12 is a three-way line array. The high-end got a two cylindrical transformer. So the goal of this is that the wave, the shape of the wave that's going out of the high-end driver is spherical from the start, and the goal to build a line array is to have like a ribbon shape of the high-end output at the end. So the top of the transformer and the bottom are really close to the next one on the other speaker. So it behaves like one big vertical speaker arrangement. So this is the transformer. It's a bit a diamond shape inside. The medium is reproduced by an OEM Vital Pro 3-inch driver. So there are 8 3-inch drivers. We choose a 3-inch instead of a bigger because it gives the center of the speakers are more close to each other with a 3-inch. So the line source criteria are better with this kind of speakers. And then the low end is a 12-inch OMS Vital Pro also. It's a really, really powerful speakers. One of the most powerful and more respected 12-inch speakers in Pro Audio live. The RS8HQ is a bit, and the RS8A also is a bit the same. So it's the same high-end cylindrical transformers with a 3-inch HF driver from BNC. And the low end medium is 8 inches BNC speakers also. So now about the amplifier. Most of Audio Focus products are active speakers. So we call active speakers because the amplifier is really inside the same cabinets. All our amplifiers are from PowerSoft. So those are Class D PWM amplifier, so it's pulse width modulation with a lot of the goal of PWM KSD is to have a lot of efficiency with the integrator, and you have like 95% efficiency. It's also the PowerSoft technology is also PFC. So PFC means power factor correction. The difference between a purely resistive device and an amplifier or anything else in the electronics world is that it's not only a pure loading system, it's RLC circuit. So the real power and that you see here in green with the apparent power are not the same because of the resistive power. So you can call the angle in between those two the power factor angle. So this is in red the power you have to give to the amplifier, and this is the power it will give to the speakers. Plus the inside usage of the DSP and things like that, but the fan, but it's really negligible. So the goal is to make this angle as small as possible. So the apparent needed power is really almost the same that the real power you need. So this is a bit like an overview of how PFC works. S2 and the blue line here is how the current is used with a no PFC technology inside the amplifier. So the current is peaking in the same time than the voltage is peaking. To be honest, it's as I write it down, it's 90 degrees out of phase with voltage, but it's more easy to see graphically the result like this. So the green line is the power factor correction effect. So without peaking the same peak than a no PFC, we only peak the half of the current, but the surface that the integral of the current is way more efficient than S2. So S1 is bigger than S2. So it means with less current, we use more current. So the peak is reduced, but we can drain more current outside classical PSU. Also, there are a lot of other advantages of the PFC. So it's obviously more efficient, but also the power supply will regulate because the input voltage is not always perfect, like on this drawing, the red drawing. The power supply could have a lot of harmonics and problems, and also fuel generator have frequency variation, things like that. This is not a problem for the PFC. PFC will regulate all of this and clean all the input of the PSU. Also, it's auto switch, which means that if the voltage changes, there are no problem. It can go down to 165 and go up to 55, it's okay. And if you go below a certain limit, it will switch to 110 like in the US. So if you're working on a tour and you touring the world, you don't have to worry about where you're playing because the amplifier will always adapt to the local power supply. Also, it's important for us that more efficient means also you need less current. So it's ecological. And so also it filter everything in, out of the PSU, so you have less harmonics or less parasite, and also it's lighter weight because you need smaller amplifier to do the same job as a big amplifier. Power soft amplifier also have the smart rail management. So on a typical amplifier, you have a maximum voltage rails and minimum, and all the outputs will variate or oscillate in between those voltage. Like in the mixing desk, you also have rails. So the power soft technology, SRM technology, is able to adapt to the output signal. It's again, it's a drawing to make understand how it works. There are Windows integration and etc. So you don't have any loss on transient and look ahead and things like this. So it also means that it's more efficient, because when you don't need too much current or too much voltage, it can reduce its consumption to what is needed. And another advantage on this is that the noise floor is following this line. So the noise floor is higher here, but it's the same that without the technology, but when the sound is quieter, the noise floor drop also. Also, it reduces, yes, the EMC. So EMC is electromagnetic compatibility. And so it means that it's more easier to be CE and certified all around the world for security and magnetic or EMI testing. So those slides were about the amplifier. So the other part also inside is the DSP. The DSP is a DFM DSP made in Germany with local works component. The DSP is a 96 kilohertz sampling rate with a 40-bit floating point. So this is simplified drawing show the difference of a high sampling rate following the input sine wave to a lower sampling rate. So this is the obviously advantage of a 96 kilohertz. It's quite high, and it's compatible in AES mode with most of high-end mixing desk. Also, the 40-bit floating point, it's really extreme. It's one of the biggest dynamic range you can have is the 40-bit floating point. So it's basically a 32-bit mantis with 8-bit exponent and a plus or minus bit also. So the dynamic range, because we're more talking about dynamic range instead of signal to noise ratio, is really high, really high. It's so high that you don't have noise from the converter. The noise just comes from the component electronical of the DSP. So the DSP inside DFM are made by analog devices, and it's the famous Shark DSP. The DFM DSP has a lot of function, and one of them is the type of crossover you can choose. I mean, it's only on the manufacturer part. You can't change anything inside because everything is protected, so you can't destroy the speakers. But we do tune the speakers with a lot of different crossover, which improve the horizontal directivity because of the way crossovers change the phase and group delay on their cuts. So we can improve horizontal directivity because of crossover, and also on FIR filtering. FIR filtering, not like the crossover, can be, we can give access to FIR filtering. So you can implement your own FIR filtering. And there are some guidelines from us that you can receive. And so it's quite easy to implement FIR filtering inside the speakers. Also, the protection of the speakers is not only an RMS or peak voltage, current limiting, etc. It's also protected regards the frequency. So the DSP will take care and look ahead at what is happening in the low end for the low speaker, because this is the dangerous part of the sound reproduction is the low end. So it can control the low end on its own. This means that controlling the low end, reducing the distortion before limiting, controlling the horizontal directivity will improve the STI or Alcon intelligibility of the speaker also. We also have some passive speakers, and we also have some protection on passive speakers. But the main focus for us is active speakers. The DSP is natively AES, so every speaker we sell can receive an output AES. They can receive the AES from a processor or a mixing desk or anything else, and they can be linked in AES via the AES-OP protocol. So we input the AES in XLR connector, and then linking the speakers through the RJ45 port will give you at least the ability to link on AES-OP. You're not, if you don't want to use the AES, you don't use the AES, but you can at any time. It's native on our speakers. Dante is an option, but all the speakers can receive the Dante option. If you want the Dante option, you have to order the Dante speakers. You cannot retrofit Dante inside the speakers. About Dante, it won't be an Odinate seminar webinar, but about the Dante, remember that Dante must be configured as a star, while AES gives you the advantage to link the speakers together. So also we don't provide several RJ45 port. There are only two on each speaker. So one is in and one is out, primary and secondary. So if you go to the Dante and you also want to have the control and you also want to have the AES-OP link, there is no problem. Everything will go on the same cable, on the same flow. And more than that, speakers without the Dante will be Dante true, and they will let pass the Dante to the next speaker. So for example, here you have a computer that will control the speakers through AF Manager. This is the green stream that go to all the speakers. And then you have a mixing desk, for example, giving some Dante input that go to the switch also. And so all the Dante speakers in red receive the Dante signals. Those two speakers are not Dante optional. They are only AES, natively AES. But still the Dante will flow through those AES speakers and reach the last Dante speakers in the network. And also, if you have the Dante controller inside, you can see all the speakers on the Dante controller on this computer. Yes, also, of course, the speakers also have the classic analog input and output link, and the analog as a fallback option. This means that if you are from AES and have a sync problem or issue, the sound will go from AES to analog, and then we'll go back to AES when the clock is good again. Also, if I can go back, how do I go back? Yep. Also, the DSP are asynchronous DSP. And so this means that they don't necessarily have to have a clock. They can clock on themselves. And so it's better for digital interconnection between speakers and between the mixing desk. And so it can have a different sample rate easier than other DSP. So this was about inside the cabinets, the amplifier and the DSP technology. Now about the rigging. The rigging in audio focus has been made to be able to have step of 0.5 degree. We think it's important because especially at longer distance, a small degree difference means a lot of this different space area covering. For example, only with a 10 meters projection is on this drawing, you can see that 1 degree angle make a difference of 2 meters, while 0.5 make a difference on 1 meters. Then the rigging can go up to 14 degrees. So we can split a beam of RS12 in 2 separate part, for example, for a balcony and a floor audience area. You can see the result on the SPL on Ease Focus. And so the sound will go where you want it and not be wasted in the middle of the two areas where nobody stands. See, this is a real life application in Belgium with RS12, yes. And so, for example, in this particular theater, which is almost 1,000 seats, a difference of 0.5 degree mean 2 or 3 rows, so it's like 75 seats. So 0.5 degree is a precision needed. Also, the 14 degrees give the ability to split the angle of the beam and only put sound of the balcony and on the floor and not in between. So yes, the rigging is quite versatile. About now the subwoofer technology. All audio focus subwoofer are with speakers in a direct radiation with bass reflex and also in transmission line. So a lot of energy go back inside the subwoofer because obviously the speaker is moving the two-way almost the same. So not to lose all the energy inside the speakers, the solution for us, the best solution is the transmission line. So this means that in front of the speakers, 90% of the front is an emission zone. Not working always at the same time because the bass reflex work at certain frequency and the transmission line at others. But this is the way to make it the more efficient and the most possible way to be the more efficient. So also we put a lot of braces inside the subwoofer to keep everything really tight together and really strong. And you have no moving part, you have no vibration or mechanical noise that could parasite the noise you want to reproduce. So this is an inside view on the arrays, on the subwoofer. The subwoofer has the same amplifier and DSP that all the range. And now let's talk about how the system work together. So we think the product as solution for touring or for installation and sound reproduction. So we want to give the possibility to work as fast as possible. So this is why we have active speakers with no need to cable and with preset inside. And also we want that every top can work with every sub and be time aligned and phase aligned by default. Plug and play, they can work together. So you can build some two-way speakers with the Venue and the CM and the FRX. You can build some three-way speakers with the subwoofer working with every top, and four-way. The four-way, most obvious way to do a four-way is the RS12, which is a three-way with the S21 in the fourth way. But every sub from Audio Focus can be a sub, but can also be a bass. So it's like the B18 that Sohail introduced in the previous video. That is a bass reinforcement for the RS8. The S15, the S21, the S18, the 218 HQ can also be a bass subwoofer. So if you put your subwoofer in a bass configuration with only loading the bass preset, you mix it with the S21 in infra and a top, and you have a four-way system. So you can really build the system in all the way that you want and in all the configuration possible. So like 95, 97% of our speakers, the speakers that we sell are active speakers with the amplifier inside. So for us, it's the state of the art with the plug and play, with the fine tuning possibility, because it takes less space, because it's less cable, because there is no mistake possible with loading not the height preset inside the amplifier, because the power of the amplifier will always be perfect, because you won't also buy a big amplifier to drive all your speakers. So if you have a line array with big amplifier, this big amplifier will also drive your smaller monitors. It makes no sense. It's better to have an amplifier matching the power needed inside the speakers. Also, the cable that takes space in the truck also takes space on the stage and might be really long. And some, especially in the low end, you could have a damping issue or different sound reproduction because of different size of cable. Still, we provide a bi-amp solution or passive solution with our own amplifier and processor. So the amplifier could fit some solution if you already have some cable installed inside a building and you can't put some new power supplies, things like that. You have the bi-amp solution. This also perfectly works for touring. We do provide some amplifier rack with the power conditioner, amplifier inside, and everything ready. And also, obviously, the DSP from the active version and bi-amp version share the same software control, share the same exact preset, share the same limiting processing, so they sound exactly the same and they can be matched and crossed together. So you can have some bi-amp and active speakers together, they will perfectly work. The other part of the system is all the rigging elements. So we provide rigging for the RS12, for the RS8. We have some rigging to be able to stack the speakers on top of sub. We have coupling accessories in RS12 and RS8. We have also all the transport dolly, the rear dolly, back dolly, the fly case, the transport cover, rain cover. You have a lot of different options to build your kit as you want. Here you can see some dolly option for the S21 on the back with a hole, so you can still have the control if you want to let the dolly in, or on the bottom, so you have a ready to rock system out of the truck. So you can also leave all the cable in places. This one have a brake on all the wheels, so the dolly with powerful magnet also don't make any noise when you are working with the dolly lived on the subwoofer. So also all the subwoofers are flyable. So about the XComp technology. XComp is audio focus process to manage the constant curvature angle from FRX and also CM series. So it means that if you stack ordinary speakers next to each other, you will have this kind of result. This is the simulation inside is focus with the actual FRX. If you load the right preset, plug-and preset for the XCOM technology, this is the result that you will be given. So this provides an homogeneous horizontal sound reproduction of the speakers. It's a psychoacoustic procedure that I can't tell you obviously how it works in details, but we are canceling problems to make it perfectly homogeneous. Also, you can use as much as speakers you want, or at least you need for this configuration. And it's easier to do because those are self-power speakers. So if you want to do some XCOM with an amplifier, you will waste a lot of amplifier channel to load different presets in each speakers. But with active speakers, there is no waste. You just load a different preset on each speakers and it will give you the result immediately. So really plug and play, and a big advantage of having active speakers with a preset bank inside from manufacturer. So you also can use the FRX horn in both directions with the XCOM technology. So if you need on the side to open a bit more the coverage, sorry, on only one side of your system on XCOM, you can. The only thing to do is to load the right preset. It's a symmetrical way of loading the preset, and that's all. It will work again with all the subwoofer of the range, the S21, the MT218, also the S15 and the S18, but those are quite smaller subwoofer. We recommend the XCOM that is a quite big setup with bigger subwoofer like the 218 or the S21. And you can also build four-way system with a subwoofer that you would load the bass preset inside of it. So this is how we control and how we give solution with the preset. Another difficult point to manage in live sound is the low end. The challenge with the low end is the size of the wavelength. So you could picture the sound like a river stream. It's not really scientifically correct because sound is a particle wave and not a stream, but it works to understand. So if you put a wood stick inside a stream, if the stick is small, like here, the stream of the river won't see the stick. But the bigger the wood and the bigger the stick will start to create an interaction with the stream. So subwoofer reproduce really, really low end, especially the S21 frequency. So the low end frequency have really, really big wavelength, like 17 meters wavelength. So for those kind of wavelength, the subwoofer is like transparent. Is like the sound don't see the subwoofer, and this is why low end tend to be more omnidirectional because the size of the object, that is the subwoofer, is too small regard the wavelength. So the first solution is to put more sub together, not only for the power, but to be able to control the low end. It's exactly the same thing in the line source. It's a line array of subwoofers stacked on the ground, but it's an array. The advantage of the size of the wavelength is that if you take some subwoofer a bit apart with a hole in between, the total subwoofer will still behave like one big line array, like if they were stuck together, because the wavelength is so big that half the wavelength between the sources is still, this criteria is still respected. So the first way to control the low end is to put a lot of subwoofer together. You can see here the result on is focused with 3 subwoofer, and here it's with 8 or 10 subwoofer. You see how it start to control the low end in the front rather than being more omnidirectional. Another way to control the low end is the end fire solution. So the end fire technique is to put 2 subwoofers together but apart one from each other. So there is a space in between, and they all together project the sound in the same direction. So the goal is to reinforce the sound in the front. So the second subwoofer has to be delayed by the time in between the 2 subwoofers. So when this one plays first, when the sound of this one hits the acoustic center of this one will be emitting exactly at that time. So they are perfectly in phase on the front. But what happened is this one will emit on the back, and in this time delay plus the other, plus the other way around, the front subwoofer will emit out of phase on the back, so they will cancel on the back. This is only true at the frequency that is related to the space and the delay between subwoofer, but still the wavelength is so big that you can cancel quite a large region of the spectral reproduction of the subwoofer on the back. So in those drawing on East Focus simulation, you can see 2 rows of S21 without the end fire technique, and this is with the end fire technique. And you can see how the sound is way louder on the front than here, and how it totally cancels the back. What is good about active speaker, once again, is that we have built-in preset for that. So you don't have to measure your end fire technique on sit. You could, but there is no need. There is end fire preset inside each subwoofer. So you just have to put the subwoofer apart like in the manual, load the end fire preset on the second subwoofer, and it's done. You have the end fire plug and play solution really, really fast on the field. Another way to cancel and control the low end is the cardioid subwoofer technique. So the way it works is that you have general ratio to 1 inside 3, so 1 to 2. You put a subwoofer in the other way around, with a delay and out of phase. So it will cancel all the low end in the other way, which obviously could be the stage, or also could be some neighborhood where you don't want to put the sound because there are regulation of festival. So this is also a really efficient solution. The cardioid solution really cancel a lot of sound. You can see here a stack of S21s without the cardioid and with the cardioid. It's really, really canceling everything. Still, the subwoofer that cancel the sound on the back are a bit wasted because their only purpose is to cancel the back. Again, all audio focus subwoofer provide cardioid preset, so you just have to stack the subwoofer, load the cardioid preset, and it's done. You have a perfectly working cardioid. These are really East Focus simulation, so with S21 or S18 preset loaded. So this is really how it will behave. The last thing on low end control is canceling the back is one thing. So you have focus in one direction on the subwoofer, but also you want to be able to open the sound around, because when you stack your subwoofer in line, you will focus and do what is called a power alley in the middle of the venue or of the gig, outside gig. And if you want to be able to open the subwoofer, the native technique will be to create an arc with your subwoofer. So to arrange your subwoofer in a portion of a circle in an arc like this. But this will take much space, like 2 or 3 meters deep on the side. So the technique is to create a virtual arc. For this, you want to apply a delay on those subwoofer on the side that will correspond to, it will be related to this angle and the cosinus of this angle on the side, and this will be translated into mathematically into a delay. Regards also to the size of the circle defined by this line. Those are mathematical process that you don't want to compute yourself. You just use East Focus. You put the virtual arc subwoofer technique on, and it will, you give the size of the array, the number of subwoofer that you want to use. You decide of the angle that you want to open, and then East Focus will give you all the delay resulting in this technique. So you don't have to do any maths. Everything is plug and play. The virtual arc is really efficient way to open. It's one of my favorite subwoofer technique when I'm doing some PA tech for audio focus, because it really gives you the feeling to have one big subwoofer in the middle of a place with no cancellation anywhere. It's really totally homogeneous and it's really open, it's really controlled. But it takes a lot of processing channel because it's a lot of different delay in all the subwoofer. So if you do this technique with passive subwoofer, it's kind of a pita, because you have to use a lot of processing channel, a lot of different amplifier. Cable will be the same on the external, not inside. So it's a lot of process to use, but not with active speakers. You can set your delay before the show, and then go on the show and just take your subwoofer, because everything, every delay is inside one each subwoofer. So you don't need any external processing to be able to do an arc. On this picture, you can see S21 being put in line for an arc subwoofer technique. And on this one, it combined the end-fire solution plus the virtual arc delay. So you can work with two together. So those are things that only active speakers can do in this way of easiness and plug and play, without external processing, without analyze on sit. So it will save you a lot of time to work, and it will be really easy and take less space. So I think Jay, I might be a bit late on my presentation. So I will try to speed up a bit about EaseFocus and IF Manager.
Yeah.
So EaseFocus is audio focus software to predict and compute and calculate the gig and the prediction of the angle. So it's working software, but it could also be a commercial software, because you can then show your client different solution with different speaker number, different subwoofer placement, etc. So basically there are three windows, one top, one side, and one with the project properties. The first step is to put some speaker inside the software. Here we can see Audio Focus RS12. Then you just click the autos play. So once you put the speaker on the software, everything is set to 0, everything is straight. And when you click autos play, the software will regards to the SPL level, sound pressure level algorithm, calculate the surface and give all the height angle and pinpoint for the speakers, and that's it. Also, EaseFocus can go really far in terms of design. You can have a lot of balcony, a lot of angle of audience area, and do really complicated and difficult shape and shoot with EaseFocus. AF Manager is the control software of Audio Focus. You can control each speakers individually. This is a single aspect, one speaker by one. You can change the volume, input gain. You can change delay. You can load some preset. You can monitor all your speakers and see the input level, the output level. You can change if you are working in analog or AES, AES-OP, the synchronize of the AES, if it's embedded or bridge. You can also flash your speakers to localize which speaker is which one and make all the LED blink so you can see which speaker is talking to the software. Also, each speaker has a custom 10-band EQ, user EQ. Is not the corrective EQ that we apply. It's really a free, flat user EQ that you can use for tuning a venue, an installation, or a gig. So AF Manager work on fixed IP architecture. So it means that a speaker has an IP and it stays. The computer has to be in the same range, obviously, that the speakers. But this doesn't mean that all the IP should follow each other. And this also doesn't mean that the IP should be in the height range to be discovered by the software. So if you auto-scan your connection through the Cat6 cable that connect all your speakers, you will automatically filter and see only the audio focus speaker connected, or the processor or the amplifier. You won't see other computer, switch, device and network. It's a UDP process. And also if the IP are not correct, it will tell you which one are to be changed, and give you the option to click automatically reassign the IP, so it will fix all the IP. Everything is also automatic process for the update of the preset. So if we release a new library preset, the software will tell you that you need to upgrade the preset library, and it's the same about the firmware. It has also a scan hierarchy function. It means that when you scan a network, it will automatically knows in which order the speakers are connected together. This process goes through the ASOP function. It's a flag on the AES sound networks. So when you scan the hierarchy, this will mute a couple of seconds the speaker, so you have to scan hierarchy before a show, not in the middle of a show. And you can also reverse the direction. So if, for example, on a line array, we have connected the bottom speaker first, it will appear first in the connection. So it will be from bottom to top. And so you can revert and invert direction. This is all the single aspect of the software, but you can also create some group. So you have group window here, and you create a group and simply drag and drop the speakers you want to control in this group inside the group. And the group gives you the same function that the single aspect. So you have a 7-band EQ on the group, and you don't lose the 10-band EQ on the single aspect. So you can tune in each speaker separately, and then again tune the group. And you can also do some subgroup. So you could have a subwoofer group, a front field group, a main front of house group, a delay group, and then inside the main you could group the left and group the right in an individual way. So there are a lot of dynamic triggering inside the group because of the gain, because you can also delay and change the gain and mute a total group. The last important point about AF Manager, Audio Focus Manager, is that you can you connect to a system, you tune your system, create some group, etc. When you have created your group, it's called a system. When you use the system, you can then disconnect. And if someone else connects with a new computer, he can scan the networks and see the system that has been created by someone else. The group don't have, and the EQ, etc. parameters don't have to stay in an external processing. It's inside all the DSP. They know in which group they behave. But the other way to work is that you can create a virtual group on your computer at home, at the office, and then go on the gig and send your group to the speakers. So how look a report from EaseFocus? Once you have finished a simulation in EaseFocus, you want to export those data to something that you can transmit and give to the team, the rigging people, the PA tech, etc. So this is called a report, and it's a PDF file, so it's really easy to read it around a smartphone or a computer or a tablet. Everybody on the Windows or Mac can open a PDF. You get the basic information of the shoot. Then you get reproduction information like the SPL, the number of speakers, the receivers, because you can put receiver and see how the system sound in terms of frequency response at different place inside the simulation. And the most important part of the report is this kind of sheet. So you can see the rigging angle of the system. So this is where the angle you have to put are displayed. And also another really important aspect is the remaining remaining angle. It's bottom angle. Here is 24.5. So you can check with an angle device, or even some smartphone have some angle display if all the speakers are in the right angle total, and also the above ground distance. So when you are lifting the speakers, you want to reach the exact height of the array, like in the prediction, to really focus on the zone audience area that you want to target. And finally, another aspect is the preset. So those are the presets that you want to load on the speakers. If you load the speakers, of course, obviously before the show at the factory, they will remain even if you shut down the speakers. It's the same for the group EQ, fine tuning, etc. Everything remains. This is the receiver display. So in this example, you can see coordinate of the 5 receiver placed in this display. They are all in the center axis of the speakers. Their height is 170 centimeters. So it's the ear level of standing human. It's so people are standing on the show, not sitting. And this is the distance from the stage. And you can see that the response is quite homogeneous. And this, for example, is the S21 ARC delay. It displays all the delay that has to be set up inside the subwoofer. Voilà, so audio focus is focus on solution and not only speakers alone, because of the preset, because of all the different plug and play aspect, because of the active version and protection, but also because we are manufacturer. This means that we really built the speakers ourselves in our factory in Belgium. Everybody is under the same roof and everybody knows each other from the production line, from the HR, from the marketing, from the R&D, the design software, the logistic, the CEO, everybody is there. This makes us also really flexible and give us a lot of adaptability to the production. We can produce and stock the speakers in a really more efficient way and optimize the stock. And this is felt by the client on the cost. This is a way to be able to reduce the cost. And this is a way to be able to produce really fast and give really fast solution to the client that orders some speakers. So globally, this is all the solution we provide with the speakers themselves, with the range of speakers that we have, but also with the training and with the reliability. We have some speakers that have years and years running around. We have less than 1% SAV globally on the speakers. We also provide all the related equipment, like we build the cable inside the factory. We also build the fly case for the kit. We build all the metal part of the speakers inside the factory. So we have the solution also for the software, the prediction and management software. And we also support the client or the distributor in designing some project. We are not only inside its focus, but also obviously inside ease from AFMD, so also targeting the install market. We also provide all the resources online or like the manual on the rigging system, quick guide, and also we have a quite fast support with TeamViewer around the world or with all of our network distributors. So that's it. I will give the talk and the screen back to Rohit. Thank everybody to listen to me.
Yeah. Thanks, Thomas. Thank you so much. So we have listened to Thomas all this while, and for those of you who have got any questions, so this is an open Q&A. So there are already few questions in the chat, which I would like to. One second. So there are already few questions, Thomas. So there is someone who has asked about the FIR filters. What are they, and what do they do, and what is the purpose of an FIR filter? As in, they're talking about the very basics of how is it used and where is it used.
So FIR filtering mean finite impulse response. So it's FIR filtering can be considered like an EQ or a crossover. It will affect the frequency response of speakers in this case, and also it could affect the time response of speakers. So you can use it as a crossover, or you can use it to make a flat response of the speakers. And you can do really extreme things like 110 dB per octave crossover, and also a FIR filter can be phase flat or minimum phase. So you can do a lot of things to correcting the sound without too much touching the phase response of the speakers. The downgrade of the FIR filtering is that the process can be quite long. Well, our FIR filtering are 512 taps, so I think it's like 2 or 3 milliseconds of process, and this is not related to the power of the DSP. It's just fixed for all the DSP regards the number of tape. The other big point about FIR filtering, and this is something we're working on now, is the beam steering solution. Being able to change the phase and the time response on speakers at each frequency apart with some kind of Fourier transform, or at least concept, mean that we could even more focus on beam steering than with classic rigging and preset techniques. Even more than other brands, for example, like DNB, because we have active speakers, so there are no passive crossover inside. We can really apply a different FIR filter to the low, to the mid, and then to the high, and then to the bass, and then to the sub. So it's really more precise than anybody else because of active speakers.
Okay. So, and then there's a question that someone has asked directly onto my personal messenger. So is it ideally just the crossover and the EQ, or does it have other importance? So FIR on off. So does it generally have other features also along with that, or do you? It is just
yes.
about.
No, so this is what I try to explain, is that FIR filtering can affect the EQ response like crossover or equalization, but also time response. And you can affect time response. I mean, it won't only delay it could, but it won't delay all the frequency by, for example, 0.5 milliseconds. You can decide to delay 20 hertz by 1 millisecond and then 27 by 0 millisecond, etc. So in a way, it will change the phase response. This only makes sense, this only makes sense if you have a line array. Because the line array will have different speakers on top of each other. So if you change the time response on one frequency of the line array, regards different time regards different speakers, you will be able to beam the sound wave in front of the line array really where you want. I mean, without moving all the angles, you could really focus all the sound at 50 meters and then change the FIR filtering and not touching the height, not touching the preset, not touching the angle, not touching the rigging, and then go from 50 meters to 10 meters only and have almost no sound anywhere else than there.
Okay. Okay.
The keyword is beam steering. If you want to know more about FIR filter and beam steering, you can also Google that. But this is a big advantage of the FIR filter.
Okay, because
And
there's someone
so,
who was asked, do you have any videos on how to use the FIR filters?
we have no video. We have some papers in English about how to load the FIR filter inside the DSP.
Okay. So for those of you who need more details on the FIR filters, you can get to us. We'll share documents of how it operates on the audio focus boxes, and we'll be happy to share that. And there are a few comments and this thing on Malayalam. Okay, I think some of them have not understood because of probably your French pronunciation of the whole thing. They are not able to really connect. So we are really so that's probably because Thomas is from Belgium and his way of English is a little different. So we are definitely, Rohit and I, we are planning on regional webinars in your language, say in Malayalam. So we would be associating with the local dealers to do that. So we would definitely be happy to do any online training with your company or with your uh, whole team, integration team. And without use crossover, can we? So without the use of crossover, can we do Enfire?
So Enfire, you don't have to worry about anything about the crossover with Enfire. You just have to load the preset. For example, on S18, you have one S18 that you load the sub preset, and then the second one you will load the sub Enfire preset, and that's it. It works.
Perfect. So I think that's about it with the questions, Thomas. And thank you so much for your time. And thank you. And to
Everyone,
wrap it up,
thanks thank you so much, Thomas, again, and for everyone who are actually there present. Thank you so much for being there, for your time. We're going to get back to you personally with the regional languages on more about technologies. This was just from the manufacturers, just of what what we can do, and what are the possibilities, what are the capabilities of the system. Definitely we will get reach you guys in your regional languages, in your at your convenient time. We can actually do a regular with the Sun Infinite team. We can actually come and help you out with understanding more about the products. Thank you so much, Thomas. That was lovely. Thanks a lot.